Okay, good afternoon, all. Today we'll start our next module, that is module 5, titled Data Integrity. Okay. I hope you people remember three security goals which we are discussed in module 1, where we have confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Right. So the still the previous module where we have discussed about various cryptographic algorithms like asymmetric cryptography, symmetric cryptographies, and various things. All these cryptographic algorithms will have ensured the confidentiality of data. Okay, confidentiality means that is any third person who is going to view your message, he should not able to read the message. It should be in a scrambled version or should be hidden. Okay. This will be given with the help. This can be achieved by using a cryptographic algorithm. Then comes data integrity. So data integrity means the changes in the message should be done only and only by the authorized persons. No third party or any attacker is allowed to change the data. So how you're going to prevent the data which is going to be transmitted without, how we can going to ensure the data being transmitted is received at the receiver end without any change. So to maintain this one, we have to maintain the integrity of the particular data. So to maintain this data integrity, there are various ways like cryptographic algorithm. There are also other algorithms called cryptographic hash functions and message authentication codes. Okay, we'll be discussing in detail about these two techniques. That is cryptographic hash function. It is a subset of cryptographic system. So whereas hashing is also hash function is nothing but an algorithm which is a mathematical based which ensures data integrity. That is, if there is any change happening in the data, it will be known to the receiver end. Right. Similarly, message authentication code is also a technique where it will be utilized for maintaining the data integrity. Okay, to start off with the discussion, we'll be starting with cryptographic hash functions, where we'll be discussing what do you mean by message integrity and what are the criteria for a cryptographic hash function and what do you mean by an iterated hash function means and how they're going to be grouped under two categories of compression function we'll see in the upcoming slides. Then we'll start discussing some famous hashing algorithms. These are hashing algorithms like MD stands for message digest family. We have MD1, MD2, and we'll be discussing only MD4 and how MD5 has been derived from MD4. So MD5 is a present day, the people are using MD5 algorithm nowadays. Then SHA, secure hash algorithm, SHA-512, we'll be discussing. Then we have other technical value. Okay, just to start off with message integrity. Okay. So whenever I say integrity means, as I said, we are going to prevent an unauthorized change. Only the cryptographic algorithm will be providing only secrecy and confidentiality, but not integrity. If anyone changes the data, no one knows. Okay, if he's reading a ciphertext also and he's just changing a bit in the ciphertext, the receiver can't know. The attacker's aim would be not to get the data, but his main aim is something that the data should not reach as it is to the receiver. There he will try to tamper the data. So this tampering can be prevented if you are providing the integrity for the particular message. So there are certain applications where there is no need of secrecy at all. That is no need of encryption at all. So that is any third person is allowed to read the message, but we have to prevent the third party to change the message. So that is instead of having secrecy, we must need integrity. There, our message integrity plays a major role. You can see in the title slide, I just placed symbols of different cryptocurrencies. Why? In the sense, these cryptocurrencies are directly related to the data integrity. How securely you are going to have, going to maintain the integrity of data accordingly will be rewarded with the cryptocurrencies. One of the famous and not famous, one of the best example to understand this message integrity is nothing but having a document with a fingerprint on it. For example, people are used to write the will on your their last ages. The grandparents or great grandparents will be writing the will. So there, anyone is allowed to read the will. Okay, whatever they wrote, anyone is allowed to read, but no one is allowed to change the will. For that only, they'll be using a fingerprint, like a signature or fingerprint. at the end of the document. So this fingerprint is going to preserve the integrity of that particular document. So this is a best example of message integrity, and the same concept is applied mathematically also to get the to maintain the integrity of data. Okay. So if we compare this message and message digest, message and message digest are nothing but the message is nothing but the plain text, and the respective integrity value is nothing but your message digest, also called as hash value. Right. That is, you'll be having the message which will be given as input to a function called hash function, which is also mathematical based function, math based function, and it will give me an output called a message digest. Okay. This is nothing but unique value that will be matched only and only to this particular message. If anyone changes the message, the digest value will change. Okay. So if you compare this electronic equivalent with the document and fingerprint pair, okay, these two pairs, okay, document and fingerprint, they are physically linked with each other, whereas the message and the message digest, also called as hash value, they are unlinked separately. Okay. The only condition is nothing but the message digest, which you're going to get as output of a hash function, has to be kept in a safe form. That is, this value should be kept in a very safe position. Right. So how this integrity will be checked in the sense, generally you will be having a message and it will be given to a hashing algorithm, and this one will produce a digest. Okay. This is nothing but I'm speaking one and only with respect to hashing algorithm. Assume that you know cryptographic algorithm is utilized and it is directly given to the receiver. So receiver will apply same hash algorithm, okay, and he will able to create another digest on his own. So he will check whether the present digest and the generated digest both values are same. If both are same, then he can confirm that message is not changed. Otherwise, he can discard the message if it is changed. This is the basic idea behind the integrity. That is, they'll use the same algorithm at transmitter and receiver end. They'll simply give the message as input and will give an output. And this hashing algorithm is irreversible. That is, you have to design it in such a way that you should not able to have an inverse function for this particular hashing algorithm. Okay. Once you get the message digest, it is totally impossible to get the message back from the digest. If you give the digest as input here, you won't get the message here. We are not hiding the message, we are just creating a value for the particular message such that any change in the message can be inferred from the change in the values in the digest. Right. So anyone have any doubts in this message integrity and digest thing, you can ask. If it is clear, you can raise your hands. Thank you, Kunal. Yeah. Thank you, Margot. Yes. Right. Now we move on to the cryptographic hash function criteria. Like they have kept three criteria should be followed for a perfect hash function. I want everyone to listen to this carefully because first property is okay. Second and third are totally interlinked with each other, so you have to follow it somewhat closely. So the third three properties are called as pre-image resistance, second pre-image resistance, and collision resistance. So start off with the first one, pre-image resistance. The condition is nothing but you should be able to create a hash function which should be having a computationally hard to find the reverse of the particular hash function. Okay. So if I will just explain you with pictorial solution. So in this case, we are going to transmit the plain text as it is. No cryptographic algorithm is utilized. Okay. So I'm having a message M here. I'm hashing, and I got the value hashed value as Y. And suppose Y is transmitted here. Okay. The attacker now gets the knowledge about Y. That is, attacker has one and only the knowledge about the hash value alone. Okay. So it should be made in such a way that he can't able to get a copy of this M dash by simply inversing the hash function. Right. So this is a concept here. That is, the property will protect against attackers who has only a hash value and trying to find out input. That is by finding the inverse of this H. If you are able to design a hash function, which is very difficult for finding the inverse, then you are satisfying the pre-image resistance property. Fine. Now we move on to a second pre-image resistance. So in this case, the input as well as the hash value will be known to the attacker. That is, given an input and a hash, it should be hard to find a different input, because here everyone is going to try to change the message, right? So you should not able to change the message with different input, but you will give a same hash value. For example, you assume that hash function h and you're giving input as x. It is going to produce a hash value of h of x. Okay. Suppose I'm attacking and I'm taking the hash function and the input. What I'm going to do in the sense, I'm just going to change the input to x. Instead of x, if I want to replace it y. Okay. At the same time, the receiver should not know means I'll be creating a hash function such that h of y will be equal to h of x. So this should not happen. If this happens, then anyone can able to replace x with other input, but produce the same hash value. Here you can able to this how the message will be transmitted while hashing. That is, I will take a message, hash it. I'll append the hash value along with the message and make a single packet which will be transmitted. So the receiver can retrieve the message back, and again he will hash and will compare the transmitted hash value and the generated hash value to get the message. So you can able to see here, Eve attacks the message. He took the packet. He created another message called m dash, but which produces the same output here. The hash values are same. Means then obviously Bob, once receiving the message and he is hashing the message again, will be getting the same value, thinking that the message is properly sent by Alice. Right. So this is the if you are able to design the hash function in such a way that you are going to mitigate this effect, then you are going to satisfy the pre-image resistance property. So if it is clear, you can raise your hands. If anyone have any doubts in these two properties, you can ask. Because only if you are clear with the second property, you can able to get a glimpse of third property somewhat clearly. Okay, thank you guys. Right. So what is this third one called? Collision resistance. It is nearly synonymous to a second property. That is, they're going to produce two different inputs called x and y, and they're going to get a hash value which is going to get as same thing. But here the only concern is nothing but what is the size, generally called as the length of the message. Here they're going to produce, use two different inputs of different length, but producing a same length of a hash. Always hash function will produce a fixed length, whatever the size of input it may be. Even if you give 1 bit, suppose the hash function is be giving output of 100 bits. Even if you give 1 bit as input, it will give 100 bit as output. Even if you give 1 lakh bit as input, you again will give output as a 100 bit. Okay. Right. So they're going to use two different length of inputs to produce the same hash function here. So this if you are able to satisfy this one, then you can able to call a hash function as a collision-free hash function. You can able to see if hash function is collision resistant, then obviously it will satisfy the second image resistance. Here you can able to see we have two messages called m and m dash. Both are different in values as well as in the size, but both producing the same hash values. So if you want to put them in a Venn diagram, pre-image resistance, where the attacker knows only the hash value, for example that h of x alone is known. Whereas in second pre-image resistance, the attacker knows the values of h of x and x. So you'll try to find other value called y to get h of x equivalent values. Collision resistance, again the known data is h of x and x, but they will be using different inputs of different sizes to match the hash value. So collision resistance is a subset of your second pre-image resistance. Is it clear, guys, regarding these three properties? If it is clear, kindly raise your hands. If you have any doubt in this message integrity hashing, you can ask me. Hashing is totally a different entity compared to cryptographic algorithm. Cryptography, I'm just going to scramble the plain text, whereas in hashing, I'm going to protect the data from any change. If anyone changes, it will be notified. It just doesn't mean that it will protect them from changing. If anyone changes, means it will notify to the respective users. Right, I think I can proceed then. Now we will see certain applications, how we can able to use this hash functions along with my cryptographic function. We have two scenarios here. This is the first scenario called A. Okay. where I need both confidentiality as well as integrity. So here hashing is done here, where your integrity of data is maintained. And here I'm performing a cryptographic algorithm encryption where confidentiality is maintained. So you can able to see the scenario here. They're having the message, which is the plain text here. And the message is taken and the hashing is done. For example, assume that hash value Z is produced here. Now they are going to append. So the packet, how it will look like in the sense here, the packet will have the message here and they will append the Z along with this one. Then this entire packet is encrypted. So now the entire packet is scrambled and this is the cipher text. Inside the cipher text, I have my plain text, that is the message, and the hash value Z. So this is the encrypted version and now it is transmitted. At the receiver end, the decryption is done. Since this is a symmetric key cipher, they're using the same key called K. Decryption is done, the packet is retrieved. This is the thing with hash value Z and message is present here. Then the receiver will take the message part alone, that is this part alone will be taken and hashing will be done, which will produce a Z dash, and they'll compare the Z dash with the Z, which is transmitted or transmitted. If both are same, then integrity is maintained. Right. So in this application, they are in need of integrity as well as the confidentiality. Does anyone have any doubt in this one? In this flow, you can ask. If it is clear, kindly raise your hands. Because if and only if you are clear with this flow, you can able to appreciate the difference between your cryptographic algorithm and hashing algorithm. If it is clear, kindly raise your hands. Okay, thank you. This is second scenario now. Second scenario, they have a concern one and only about integrity as well as the encryption, but in different positional value. What they did in the sense, they took the message and they performed hashing, which gave me output Z. But here they want to protect only the hash value here. So they encrypted the hash value alone. So assume that this is encrypted and we got it as Y. Okay, now the packet will be having the message M and the value Y. And once it is not encrypted, directly they transmitted here. Here is an encrypted version of the hash value where I will decrypt it and will get the Z here. And whereas I'll take the message here and apply the same hash function, I'll get Z dash and I will compare them. Both are same, then integrity is maintained here. This is one scenario. Right. Then there is a other enhanced version. In this example, the C, there is no cryptographic algorithm involved, but still they made the hashing somewhat secure. How in the sense, a transmitter is using a secret key called S, which will be known transmitter as well as in the receiver. So in this scenario, you can able to see they took the message, then the message is appended with a secret key called S, right? And they produce a hash value Z. So in this, after appending, I'll have the message here and Z here. Suppose the attacker attacks and takes a message, and even if he knows the hashing function, if you hash here, you won't get same Z. Instead, you'll be getting other value called Y, because here for producing Z, I've added my secret key called S here along with this one, right? So at the receiver end, again they take the message and again they will append it with the secret key S. Then the hashing will be done to get the Z dash and they will compare the Z. And this scenario is totally sophisticated. That is highly computational complex, which will also to maintain high integrity of data as well as the confidentiality of data will be maintained here. Because here they apply the secrecy here, hashing. Again they appended, they have encrypted the entire block. Again decrypted. After decrypting, before hashing, they added a secret here to get the Z dash, and they will compare the Z here. These are few scenarios. You can use any scenarios based on the application requirement. Even you can design on it, your own. Actually speaking, people who have studied cryptography last semester, few people are doing a capstone under me. They have now designed a new structure for along with cryptographic algorithm and hash algorithm, thereby reducing the computational complexity, but as well as increasing the confidentiality and integrity of the data. So you can think over it based on the application requirement. You can choose any structures on your own, and you can design your flow. Right. So I hope I am clear with the applications of cryptographic algorithm. So anyone have any doubts in the scenarios, you can ask me now. If not, if it is clear, just raise your hands. Because I just want to ensure that you people get a picture of data integrity, then only it will be easy for you to understand. Okay, thank you. And these are certain applications like we are using digital signatures, which using his hashing algorithm to satisfy all these three properties. And intrusion detection, virus detection. This is like your firewall, not antivirus. It's like firewall also can be built based on your hashing, which will satisfy only the second thing. Then we can also make use of symmetric encryption techniques to produce or to perform the hashing. Like for example, how we use symmetric ciphers as well as asymmetric ciphers for pseudo-random number generation. Though the symmetric and asymmetric ciphers major job is to create ciphertext, we can also utilize them to perform PN sequence generators also. Similar way, we can use symmetric key algorithms also to perform hashing. Yeah. So here in this case, there is no need of any properties because we are going to use of encryption algorithm to perform a data integrity part here. Then we have one-way password files and map, which we'll be discussing. That is message authentication codes. We'll be discussing in the upcoming classes. Right. Now we move on to the cryptographic hash function. What does a cryptographic hash function means? So whenever I say cryptographic hash function, you will take a message which is a plain text of any arbitrary length. So the size of a text can be whatever the size it may be. Okay. This will be given as an input to the function, but the output will be always a fixed length output. That is, a message digest will be always a fixed length. Okay. So to understand this cryptographic hash function, we'll be seeing what we mean by iterated hash functions and what are the two groups of compression function. Right. To start off with, what is iterated hash function? Okay, since the cryptographic hash function is going to produce fixed length message from a variable length input, right? So to perform this one, certain changes has to be done so that I can able to get a fixed length output from the fixed length input also. Will that I'll jump into the picture to get a clear idea. So this scheme is called as Merkley-Damgard scheme, which is the first and foremost structure for iterated hash functions came into existence. This will be a structure for your all the cryptographic hash functions which have been used till date now. So like a general structure. How we have common structures for RSA, LGAML and ECC based LGAML, the same way, this is the general structure for hash function. So here you're having your original message volume, which is of variable length. Okay. What I am going to do in sense, I'm going to divide this entire length into desired blocks of my size. So here I have chosen n bits, okay, and I have divided them into blocks. If there is a shortage, then I'll be going for padding. So the last will be having a padding bits along with the part of the message. Okay. Now, this each block of message will be given to a mathematical computation called f, which is called as a compression function. Okay. So what we are going to do is going to compress the incoming n number of bits with respect to m bits. That is m in the sense the seed value. This is a seed value which will be given to the input to the function here, which will take an input from the message here and produce a hash value. This h1 is a hash value in the first iteration, which will be made up of m bits. And you can able to see in this scenario, n will be always greater than m. That's why they're going for compressed function. They named as compression function. Okay, this one will be given as an input for the next iteration, and this iteration will be repeated until you are going to cover the entire length of the message. So once you cover the entire length, the final value of m bit will be taken as a message digest value, or also called as your hash value. So if you're having 10 blocks, the iteration will run for 10. If you have 20 blocks, the iteration will run for 20. So each function here is named as compression function, and altogether the entire set is known as your iterated hash function. Right. So any doubt in this one? I hope you are clear with what you mean by iterated hash function and the compression function and why they are going for these things. This is a general structure of a hashing algorithm. If it is clear, kindly raise your hands. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Thank you, Tushar. Okay. Now we move on to two groups of compression function. That is, these compression function can be developed on two different bases. Okay, one is nothing but you can able to develop a particular function which will be used one and only for this hashing alone. That is, I can able to build from a scratch. The best examples are MD and SHA algorithms. They can be utilized one and only for hashing. Then there is also other way. That is, instead of creating new function, I can use any one of the symmetric key block ciphers, like your AES algorithm, BES algorithm. I can use any one of the symmetric key block cipher to perform a compression function. In turn, we can able to utilize them as a hashing function also by repeating the iterations. One of the best example of this technique is called Whirlpool technique. Okay. So these are two different categories. That is, the function which will be used from the scratch one and only for hashing, and there is other set where it could be utilizing a symmetric key block ciphers to perform the hashing algorithm. Right. So to just for your understanding, I'm comparing the sorry, yes. I'm comparing the scratch functions. The MD5 is a message AS5 which is currently used. Here just they have only SHA1. Presently we are utilizing SHA512. Okay. And that's also called RIP IMD. Okay, 160 also. So here you can able to see digest length, that is hash value length is fixed for 128 bits, 160 and 160. And the basic unit of processing, that is basic unit in the sense this one, this size. Each and every block, they will make it as a block size of 512 in all these three cases. And the number of steps they will run is 64 step. That is four rounds. Each round will be having 16 steps here. Here also 4 rounds with 20 steps and 5 pair rounds. So parallelly they will run 16 steps parallelly, so that you're getting 60 steps here. Okay. And maximum message size it can able to support. You can able to see MD5 can able to support nearly infinite. That is, whatever size you can able to supply, you'll be getting the output. Okay. And SH1 support 2 power 64 minus 1, but now it went to higher numbers. Again, this one. And regarding this last three parameters, we will be discussing them again while we detail when we have a detailed discussion on MD5 and SHA, because now you won't get a picture of what is this logic functions, additive functions, and NDNS. We will discuss this in upcoming slides. Right. This is a comparison of SHA algorithms. Starting from SHA1, now we have SHA512. You can able to see how the maximum size have been increased and the block size also increased, and digest size is 512, number of rounds is 80, and word size, I hope you remember what is a word is. Word is 64. Right. So these are the basic introduction about your hash functions. So is it clear, guys, so far? If it is clear, kindly raise a hand. Next one, yeah, hardly will take 10 minutes. That's all. Now we move on to certain hash functions based on block ciphers. Till now we just saw an examples on scratch functions. These are scratch functions. Some block ciphers which can be utilized to perform hashing. Okay. The first scheme is called Rabin scheme. Okay. So here instead of this compression function, they are using cryptographic function. That is encryption part alone. No need of decryption here, only encryption is used. So here they are splitting the entire message into t number of blocks of each of n bits, and they have an initial seed value which is of m bit. Okay. And here this point you people have to listen carefully. Here the seed will be given as input for the plain text, whereas the message will be coming and sitting in the position of key. Okay. Generally, people know what they will think in message means they'll go for plain text. No, in this scenario, message is taken as a key, and this seed value will be taken as a plain text here p. And the output here is nothing but ciphertext, which is H1, which will be given as a seed value for a second. And this will be running until you satisfy the entire length, and the final value will be taken as a hash value here. This is the message digest or the hash value. This is called the Rabin scheme, and they started improvising the scheme. Next one came the Davis-Mayer scheme. Here they introduced the same structure. The only difference they made in the sense they used the feedback option here. That is, they took this plain text or the seed value here and they XORed with the output here. So for example, you get your ciphertext here and you'll be XORing this one to get the hash value H1. Similarly, here you can able to see the feedback is taken, sorry, feed forward has been taken and it has been XORed for the final output. Then they improvise this one with the Mathias-Mayer OC scheme. Here you can able to see the structure looks same, but the portion of plain text, see this is the previous case, Davis-Mayer plain text and key is here, whereas here the hash value, sorry, the seed value is taken as a key and the message is taken as a plain text. That's the only difference between your Matthias and Davis-Mayer scheme difference. Then also they produced like Miyaguchi produced scheme. Here they what the difference, they took everything. That is, I took the seed value as well as the message and I XORed all these three. That is a ciphertext with the message and the seed value to get the hash value H1. And this is repeated until they satisfy the entire length of the message. Right. So, anyone have any doubts so far from the beginning of the class till now? You can ask me now. Agnitra Paul, don't worry. I got a message. I'll give that answer. So, anyone have any doubts so far? If it is clear, kindly raise your hands.